Hi Greg.
Hello mate.
I guess that's the easy way to start. So BMX Freestyle coaching, fairly new sort of discipline in British cycling. It's finding its feet, and I guess the thing is most people see BMX as more play than a performance orientated sport. So how do you walk that tightrope of walking from play to performance?
I think for the most part, 99.99% of BMX freestyle riders, it's play. You know, it's just having fun, and that's the most important thing. And especially with kids, if you're having fun, you're going to do it more. And if you do it more, you're going to get better. So performance goes up. But I mean, really, there's only a tiny percentage of people that are actually trying to compete at that level where performance is important. So for them, even with the riders that I coach on the Team GB or GB program, sometimes I'd make a point of making sure that they have sessions where they are having fun rather than just like repetition and trying to train for a contest, because that just gets, it's not the kind of sport where that's easy to just keep going or pushing yourself every single session to be better or to be more consistent. Like, you have to have fun with it. It's physically demanding, it's dangerous, it can be scary, it's psychologically treacherous at times. So I think there's a much bigger lean towards play. And only when you get to a real high level is it like, look, okay, now we need to start thinking about performance or focusing on whatever it is to improve performance or results.
Cool. And on that note, you said scary and psychological. Is there a change in the way you deal with the psychology or the thinking and overcoming fear as you work with beginners to the sport as to the high level, or is the high level more about dealing with the fear of contest rather than the fear of ramps?
I think, with the kids, like you say, with the kids, it's more about the fear of the ramps, crashing, trying a new trick, embarrassing themselves in front of other riders, things like that. And then with the riders that are competing at the highest level, that psychological balance that's less about trying the tricks and more about how do you get in the right mindset for a contest? How do you get into a mindset in a crazy practice session at a World Championships where there's 12 other riders dropping in non-stop? Or how do I do the trick on a new park that I have done every day at home, but now it's a different ramp all of a sudden, and now I'm scared. But I think psychologically, BMX is obviously physically difficult, physically demanding, physically challenging, but I think it's just as much psychologically demanding and challenging. So I think my job is 50-50 with coaching high performance athletes, getting them in the right headspace and getting them in the right physical condition.
Cool. And do you see the way maybe other disciplines have pushed themselves already in coaching? Do you see that coming into the sort of BMX freestyle space, or do you even see BMX freestyle reflecting on the way that other disciplines are now coaching themselves?
I think a lot of other sports are far more advanced, obviously. Like, they've been doing it for a long time, so there's things that we can learn from them, and I've learned from other sports. But at the same time, it's so different to most of those sports. So, if you, especially like team sports or traditional sports, like where that's super disciplined, it's really about teamwork, it's about things like that. Freestyle BMX, for most riders and most kids, doesn't work well, that real like strict approach of like a coaching session. This is what you're going to do to start. This is what you're going to do next. This is what you're going to do to finish. Next session, you're going to be doing this, this, and this. It just doesn't really work.
Yeah.
No matter what level, like kids coming into a session or the best riders in the world, like you can go into a session thinking you're going to do that or work on that, and the session starts and it's like, that's not happening today. It's not the kind of session, the energy's not right, the vibe's not right, or I'm not doing it well enough on my bike. And if you're too focused on keeping a strict routine, then that means you just don't have fun in those times when it's not feeling right. So you're just trying too hard rather than like changing direction or pivoting and doing something different.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that coaches need to learn when they're in the BMX space is
Yeah.
when you're in the skate park or pump track or anywhere else, is to learn how to read the energy of a situation and change your session according to what's going on. And it's a really hard thing to quantify. It's only something you can sort of learn from experience. I guess that hints into that you were talking the sort of non-linear pedagogy, constraints-based approach. Would you say that's the sort of thing that affects your coaching philosophy, or is it more just geared towards fun?
It depends who I'm coaching and what you're trying to get out of them, or what they're trying to learn, what their goals are. I think overall, if I'm trying to coach a rider and they're not having fun, then it's just like, well, let's just rein it in. Because no matter what, you need to be having fun to enjoy BMX. Like, that's fundamental key of it. If you're not, then it's just tough, and it gets tough. So it's always try to get back to that. But for some riders, being the best they can be, doing the best tricks in the world, winning the biggest contest, that's fun. But no, that's not for everyone. So it's finding that balance. But I think in some senses it's not linear, but in other senses you have to bring it back to linear. Like if I've got a rider, no matter what level they're at, and they're trying to learn a trick and they're struggling with it, but they keep trying that trick, it's like, well, what's the step before that? Let's just go back a step and let's perfect that. Maybe let's spend more time on the step before to move on to that one. Like if you keep it simple, if you're trying to learn the 360, and they keep trying 360, but they keep crashing. It's like, well, can we get 180s dialed? Like, can we get those like perfect every go, and then find a jump where you can do a 270 and just build it up a little slower rather than just sending something that maybe is that step too far for you at that time.
Yeah, like if again, every kid wants to learn a bar spin straight off, so then you're like going back to boggins, no hander, one hander.
Yeah, even just a one hander. Like, I've had kids coming to me in a session and I'm like, well, what do you want to learn? What's your goal? And it's like, oh, I want to do a tailwhip. I'm like, all right, can you jump the box and do a no footer? No. You're never going to land a tailwhip, but before you can do a no footer, like it's just not going to happen. So taking that step back and getting those fundamentals, and it's not safe. Like when we built up British Cycling coaching course, there was that's the way it differs from a lot of other sports. Our education team and the other coaches were like, oh, we need like a remit for the coaches. What tricks can they coach at this level? And I just said, no, that's not how we need to do this. It's not I don't think BMX is what trick you can do. It's like, what trick is the rider ready for? Doesn't matter what the coach, the remit shouldn't be, I can coach this and this and this trick, and once you've learned those, I can't coach you anymore until I do the next course. It's like, well, no, you can. Are they ready for the next trick? Then that, you can coach the next trick. That's how it kind of differs in most sports. That's how you keep riders safe, making sure they can do some tricks before they start trying something too crazy. And that's how you can, just keep advancing them, keep it fun.
Yeah, I guess you're touching on a sort of person-centered approach there. You're looking at every rider as an individual. You're not looking at the group and saying, in this session, all of this group must be able to do a one-hander, because some people that will work for and some people that won't work for. Yeah,
exactly. It's freestyle for a reason. We saw today in that first session and the second session, the riders are similar level, but not the same at all. So you can't give them the same thing. There might be some challenges where you can set different targets. If you've got 5 kids and they're all trying to learn how to carve a quarter pipe, you can, for the beginners, you can set a real low target. And for the better kids, you can set higher targets. But all the kids are going to be different. They're all learning at different levels. They're all going to be at a different stage. And that's the hardest thing with coaching groups, is you've got kids that are learning different stuff and at a different phase of their progression.
I think at lunch there, you talked about the fear of falling and teaching falling, and I think that's something that both coaches and participants are a bit scared of. What advice could you give towards coaches on the teaching falling and keeping people safe?
I think the first thing you can do is just let the riders know that falling is part of BMX. BMX freestyle, like, you're not going to learn how to ride freestyle without falling at some point. So they like, well, you're not going to get better. You know, in BMX racing, you're going to advise never to fall, or try not fall, obviously. But freestyle, like, if you're going to learn tricks and you're going to advance, you are going to fall. So the sooner they can get comfortable with that and not think that falling is failure. Falling is learning, and the more, like, when you fall, you've learned something and how to adjust that. I still, you know, some of the riders, like the top level riders that I coach, it's every time they make a mistake or they fall, I still look at them and I'm like, right, what went wrong? Why did you fall? Like, you know, they might be trying the hardest trick in the world. They might be just landing really flat on a new box jump, and it's like, what went wrong? And they're like, well, I went too fast. Like, maybe you didn't pull up enough. Don't do that again. Like, you know, try and not do that again, and then you'll improve. But I think advice, no matter what level they're at, learn how to fall, get comfortable with falling without hurting yourself. That's the hard bit. But that's part of our jobs as coaches, is to find ways to do that. It might be teaching them just how to jump off the bike and let it ghost ride. It might be jumping into a foam pit and throwing the bike. But where falling in BMX becomes dangerous is when they hold onto the bike until the last second, until they've hit the ground. Like, if you're holding on and you're going down, the chances of you getting hurt are pretty high. But if you throw the bike away, you've got a much higher chance of getting away with it and sliding down the ramp maybe, and, you know, walking away and carrying on.
Yeah, I think that's a big one that we always find. There's like this thing where they want to hold on to the bike because they're worried about breaking the bike. Yeah. And you're standing there as a coach worried about them breaking themselves, and you're like, just throw it.
Don't worry about the bike. The bike will, you can't really, you can fix a bike, you can buy new parts, but you get injured and you get hurt, that's, you know, that could be a long time off. It could be, you know, the impact is far greater hurting yourself than hurting your bike, obviously.
And the psychological, and I guess that also starts to kick in with, at what point do you feel that the curriculum or teaching, coaching should become more progressive or more like a traditional coaching when kids are trying to progress? Or even, is there a point, or can it just be play and fun up until Olympic level?
I think it depends on the kid. I think that there's a definite difference between coaching kids on how to just ride BMX and have fun and learn tricks, and then how to teach kids to compete. That's a different story. Like, you know, that next level of how to coach kids to put a run together, be fit enough, how to choose tricks, how to, you know, build a run where they meet all the different judging criteria. If that's their goal, you know, if you've got a kid that wants to compete, if their target is being on an Olympic program or getting to the World Championships or something, that's a different story. That's where it becomes like, okay, now we need to not just play and have fun. You know, you've got a 60-second run. If you watch the normal BMX contest, a 60-second run, that's usually, you know, 14 to 20 tricks. You really want to not repeat a trick. So firstly, can you get that many tricks? Have you got that many tricks? If you don't, can you build that many tricks up? And then if you've got a contest coming up, which tricks do you want to do in that contest? Do you know what the park looks like? Is there an element of the park that you've never ridden before? Can we find something like that to practice on? And then can you get those tricks you're going to do so consistent that you can land it every time, rather than, oh, I'm going to go to a contest. Like, this is the difference between contests. When I started competing, it was I'd drop in and try my hardest tricks, and it was like 50-50. Is it going to work out? But I didn't really care that much. Unless it was a contest I really wanted to win, then I might actually have to hold it back a little bit. But now, in, you know, high-level freestyle park contests, the qualifying phase, you got two 60-second runs and they both count towards your score. And only when you get to semi-finals or finals is it 2 60-second runs and one counts. So in qualifying, it's the scariest part of any contest for us as coaches and for the riders, because they know they put a foot down or they make one crash in one run, they don't make it through to semi-finals or finals, they're out. So when I'm coaching those riders at that level, it's like we're actually doing drills. We're like, right, these are your tricks that you're going to do at that contest next week. 15 of each of those in a row today. If you crash on one or fall on one, start again. Like, get it to the point where you can do, at least 10 in a row, every single go. That's ready for a contest run. Well, that's at least ready for qualifying. Semi-finals and finals, you can push a bit harder to like tricks that maybe are a little more risky. Maybe you've got a 70-80% chance of landing it, like not your whole run. You're not going to fill the whole 60 seconds with those tricks, but you might put something in there. Depends on how good the rider is, how strong the field is. Someone like Kieran Riley, for example, he might be able to do a safer run in semi-finals and get through to finals, and then he knows he's made it through. And then he can take it easy, and then finals he's going to push to try and win the contest. So, and then there's other riders that need to give everything to qualifying just to have a chance of making it through. So it just depends on the level of rider and what their goals are. But I think younger kids, and if their goals aren't competing and winning and becoming like that kind of rider, then it's like every session should have fun. If they're having fun, they're going to learn stuff, and you just help them and guide them towards what they're trying to learn. And yeah.
And off that, you were talking about 14 to 20 different tricks.
Yeah.
How important do you feel then creativity is for BMX, both for the participant and also as a coach?
I think there was a stage when when BMX Freestyle first got added to the Olympics and started being regulated by UCI, the contest for probably 6-7 years, the way it was judged was riders were rewarded for difficulty over almost everything else. So it was like you were just seeing riders doing the hardest tricks, and they were doing the same stuff. Most riders are doing the same tricks. You watch a run and you're like, well, I've seen that run before, I've seen that trick before. That's starting to evolve now, where judges are they're getting better at using or utilizing all the criteria that are supposed to be in the judging criteria, which is, use of course, style, creativity, originality. I think there's 11 different criteria. Judges are getting better now, where they're valuing riders that do something a little different, maybe use the course better, go higher, go faster. So it's not to saying those riders are now winning contests. It's more like if you don't have a little bit of everything, you might not have a shot at winning the contest anymore. Whereas, 3-4 years ago, a rider could just go and do the hardest tricks, and even if they're 3 foot lower than everyone else and going pretty much straight back and forth on the park, they could still win the contest. Those days are over now. Like, you need to be going 12 foot. You need to be jumping the biggest gaps and doing the biggest tricks and with some decent style, or you're not, you'd be lucky to win it on. Yeah.
And what qualities do you feel are necessary to become a good freestyle coach?
I think you need to understand people. I think what's made me a good coach is I've done a lot of learning and understanding on psychology. So when I look at where I want to advance my skill set, it's not like my knowledge on BMX. I spend a lot of time learning about BMX, but I also spend a lot of time learning about what motivates people, what helps people get out of certain headspaces that they're struggling with. Or I find that a lot of people in BMX have various neurodiversities, whether it's ADHD or whatever it might be. Like we get a lot of kids and a lot of riders that have those they're very different, but learning about that and not criticizing and not expecting the same thing out of every person has helped me become a better coach. Learn the person, see what's going on, and try and help them with what they might need, rather than taking one approach to an entire team or a full program or whatever it might be.
See the person.
Yeah,
not
that's it.
Not the end result.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Yeah. Kevin, did I get all your questions? I think the neurodiversity is also a big one.
Yeah.
I know myself and various other people in this room, without giving away too much, are on various neurodivergent tips.
Yeah.
And I think at times there is times where it does get frustrating as you're a coach. There is moments where even your own patience can start to wear thin. No matter how much you're talking about being the better person and judging, and not judging the person but understanding the person. How would you get yourself through a situation like that?
I think the most important thing is just sometimes I just remind myself that we're riding BMX. So how much does it, we're not changing the world, we're not fixing world hunger or, creating world peace or something. Like, we're not inventing a cure for cancer, we're riding BMX. So when I get stressed out about somebody that's, maybe frustrating me because they won't do something or they're doing something differently than I expect, or I'm just like, what are you gonna do? It's fine. Again, it's freestyle, isn't it? It's freestyle, it's fine. Like, I've had situations coaching groups of kids where you can tear your hair out because the kids are like wild and they just do whatever the hell they want, and like, you've got this idea of the session plan that you want to implement, and like, it's just not happening because that kid's just dropped his bike and he's running up there and he's trying to get ice cream and he's screaming at another kid and whatever it might be. Like, you can't get upset or angry. At the end of the day, you're not a school teacher. You're not trying to get them through an exam. Like, you're just trying to get them to have fun on a bike. Like, so that's it.
Yeah, and that fun for them might look different from the fun that you have in your head.
Exactly, yeah.
Cool. Should we open that up for anybody with questions?
I've got one to kick us off, actually. So, with that earlier session that we did this morning, a lot of parents around as well. So if you have to deal with kind of parents within your space, but I take it you do if you're been through that whole pathway. So do you have any advice for the coaches in the room about how to, deal with parents?
Yes, please.
I think it's always going to be different on the kid and the parent. Dealing with parents, it depends on the parents and what they're expecting. I think sometimes you might need to remind them of some of those points, like the kid's just having fun, like this, it's not school, and let's not put too much. If you put too much crazy expectation on the kid, then they're probably not going to have fun and they're not going to enjoy it. So, but I think from my experience, most parents, what they really want to see is that you care about the kid and you're giving them the attention that they want and they need. So if parents are watching over a group session, every parent is watching their kid and they're seeing your interaction with their kid. So one thing you should be doing in every session is making sure that you're giving all the kids at least some attention. Some might need more than others. So as long as you, at some point, if you, like that first session today, we had 2 kids that were far more advanced than the others, but we were doing a pretty easy session. So for the most part, I just let them go, but I would keep stopping and just having a chat with them. How's it going? Find a way of making it more difficult for them. Can you go higher? Can you add a hop in here? Can you, can you do whatever? And then just also having a chat with the parents. Just they also appreciate just that, like a quick little, oh, is that your kid? Oh, how's it going? Yeah, oh yeah, they're having fun. Like, oh, they might be struggling with this and this. Just 2 minutes of your time, like a little bit of time. They just want a little bit of your time. They want to know that you're paying attention to the kid, and they want maybe just a minute of your time to know what's going on. Usually, there are other instances. I've had parents on the sideline like shouting at the kid to try a trick and saying, oh, if you do that trick, you get pizza tonight or whatever. And I'm there like, bribery is not the option yet. We're not trying to bribe your kid into like doing a trick they're not ready to do, or they can't do, or they don't feel comfortable to do. Like, but you know, in that situation, it's not like calling them out in front of all the kids, in front of the session, in front of the other parents. It's like quiet word afterwards, like, hey, just like, I know you want your kids to progress, but I don't think that's really helpful right now. Maybe they're not ready, like their skill level might be ready, but mentally they're not ready to try that trick. They're scared, and that, you know, there's a good reason that if they fall, they're going to hurt themselves. So they've probably got a decent reason to be scared. So, you know, let's just try get them to that mental space rather than screaming at them to do the trick.
So I got a bit of a technical question off of that.
Yeah.
So talking about making it harder and changing things around for some of the kids. Like if we're looking at something like carving, good old right foot forward, go left, that jazz. Do you feel it's worthwhile to start the kids learning to carve opposite almost as soon as they start to carve regular, or leave it a bit?
Yeah. I think if a kid's trying to learn how to ride a skate park, the sooner they can learn how to go both directions, the easier every skate park's going to be. So the sooner you can learn that, the better. It's not always easy in the park setting. That session we had today, we had them all carving one way. 3 times I asked the better kids if they could try it the other way, and they just wouldn't. They said that they could do it, but they wouldn't do it. Now, I'm not there to like make them do something. So after I asked the 3rd time, it's like, you don't want to do it, fine. Like, you know, like you don't want to do it, that's fine. But if you can find a situation or a ramp or something, where they can, you know, they have to almost go both ways. That's ideal. When I used to coach down at Source Park, we'd have the kids doing like a figure of 8, and then they would have to learn, and following each other they would learn. But in a lot of cases, when you're trying to teach a kid to go opposite, like carving, let's say they're going left the whole time and they're getting higher and higher and higher, and like, can you go right? They're like scared. You're like, remember, you started down at the bottom when you went left, and you only got up there now. Start back down at the bottom the other way. Like, they might think they need to go high, and in their head they're just like, oh, I've got to go all the way up there that way, and that's scary, and they think they're going to fall. It's just a reminder, like, start small. Like, you know, just start at the bottom. Let's go opposite, but start at like right at the bottom, and then go build up if you feel okay with it. But yeah, I think you should be, if possible, teaching kids to go both directions. Yeah.
Same with, I guess, since we said opposite, agree the same with switch as well, because I think sometimes just having that ability, because your pedals are never going to be where you want to be sometimes when you land, or...
Yeah, I think it's just a way of like changing up the session, you know, there are some tricks that work better with other feet forward, not a lot, but there are tricks that can work the other way, and it will just make a more rounded rider if they can. Like, it just throws you off. Like, you know, the example is always like, oh, can you write with your opposite hand? Like, I can't, but but not even just that. Like, I've had situations where if you're riding a BMX a lot, like I'm talking, you know, hours and hours a day, there was a time when I was riding 6-7 hours a day, 5 days a week, and I rode right foot forward non-stop. And the body position you're in, like, the muscles you build are so out of balance that you start having like real physical problems, like with your back, with, you know, also knees, all sorts, because you're building muscles differently on either side of your body. Like, you're spending that much time working out in a different position. So I had to start riding left foot forward, at least for an hour a day, which was tough, but it was just to try and get my body back in balance, and that helped my back. So
I guess based off of that, how useful do you feel the gym is for freestyle athletes?
Say again?
How
useful do I feel the gym is for freestyle athletes? I think that comes back to what level they're at and what sort of performance they're looking for. You know, if you're just having fun, then spending hours on your bike is fine. I think where it's really helpful for riders like that is like injuries, preventing injuries, or rehabbing injuries, you know, that can be really good. But when you're talking about high level competition and doing contest runs and building that strength and fitness, there's only so much. Oh, mate, it's all right. I think there's only so much you can actually do with on the bike. If you want to build up that next level, and that's the plan and that's your goal, then you know gym does help. You can't expect a rider at the top level to ride at that level 6 hours a day. It's just not sustainable. It's like dangerous. You're going to get fatigued. You're going to hurt yourself. It doesn't work. But you can go in the gym for an hour or 2 hours a day and then have a 2-hour session in the evening. So I think it's important to riders if they're trying to get really good at competition, or if they're trying to get a lot stronger, which helps with tricks. If your goal is to have fun on your bike and enjoy your session with your mates, I don't think it's that important.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Any questions?
Well, I think you kind of covered. My one would be like goal setting. Like, how do you like set realistic expectations for riders that come in to get coached by you? I guess you were mentioning like sort of building it, see what they can do first, and then whether that's possible. But like, it's more like, how do you talk to them about that, like without feeling like you're just saying, "Nah, you're not there yet."
That is a good question, because you get that at all levels. You know, the rider coming in saying, "I want to learn how to tail whip," or a rider that I'm coaching for Team GB that's like, "Well, you know, my goal is to win the Olympics," and you know that they're not there yet. It always comes back. It's never like, "I don't think you're there yet," or "I'm not sure."
Yeah.
It's always like, okay. The first response is always, "Okay, that's your goal. You want to learn how to tail whip. All right, so first we need to do no-footers really well. We need to do maybe some other different no-foot tricks. We need to start kicking the bike around. We need to, so it's just, and then, you know, a rider comes in, "I want to win the Olympic Games." Like, all right, okay, we can do that, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. Like, you need to firstly probably start winning, you know, smaller competitions. You need to build up. You need to qualify for World Cups. You need to start winning those. How do we get there? Firstly, we need to start being able to do 60-second runs. You need big tricks. You need to be able to do them in runs. So just breaking it down. It's never like, "I don't think you're there yet," or maybe it's just, okay, that's your goal. You can get there. These are maybe the steps you need to take to get there.
I guess another slightly technical question off that is, do you feel that when somebody comes to you and tells you their goals, also advising them maybe geometry changes on their bike, stuff like that? You know, like somebody's going to hit 20-foot gaps at trails, but they've got like a wee jibby street bike.
Yeah.
Do you feel that's a conversation you should also have as a coach?
Yeah, very, very often, especially with younger kids. And that mostly actually comes down to size of bike. There's a tendency, especially for some reason in the UK, for a kid to jump up to a 20-inch BMX the second they can fit on it. And it's like, that's not how BMX works. Like, BMXs are small bikes. That's why we can be in control of them. We can do the tricks we can do. So if you see like what a 20-inch BMX looks like on me, that's what a BMX should look like on a kid. Like, they want to step up quickly. So you get a kid who's loving BMX, he's on a 16-inch or an 18-inch, and they're loving it. They can do all these tricks. And they start getting a little bigger, and they're like, "Oh, they can get a 20-inch now." And the parents get them a 20, and they get on a 20-inch bike. And they can't do any of the tricks anymore. They lose interest. And it's like, well, this sucks now. I'm not enjoying this anymore. So it is a coach's job to at least advise. You know, they're not always going to take your advice, but at least find a way to give them that bit of advice. Like, it might be, look, stay on that 18-inch as long as possible, like, until it's awkward and uncomfortable.
I find a lot of parents also buy them the bigger bike because they're like, "Well, he's just going to grow out of it," and I'm like, "Yeah, but
it's like it's really limited in what it can do with that, because it's like really stretching over already, and
and it's just
can't
not
kind of shift the weight back and forth. It's hard for them to stay motivated if they can't kind of get these little things, and they've got to wait till they're bigger and stronger, which is going to take years.
Yeah, I mean, they maybe just need to be a bit more resourceful on how you.
That's why I've got bikes that I offer. I always have, like, look, you can use your bike if you want, but if we're going to try a trick, maybe you want to try on this one.
And sometimes part of the coaching I've done is like helping people get the right size bikes, and like it's like, if you've got a parent that's like, oh, I need to buy them an 18-inch, but I might just go for the 20-inch because they'll grow into it. It's like, or rather buy the 18-inch. There's other kids coming up that might want to buy that off you in a year's time or 2 years' time, but they're not going to go and buy a kid a size 8 pair of shoes, because you can't run in. They could probably walk in them, but they can't run. And it's the same as a BMX. Like, you can probably ride the bike, but you can't do tricks. You can't control the bike, so you don't get them the wrong size shoes or the wrong size clothes. Like, you get the right size bike, and the geometry is important too. Like, depending on the style of the rider and how they ride and what they're hoping to achieve, like their bike should be right. Like, if you've got a rider that's kind of small-ish and they want to do loads of tricks, like a small back end is a good idea. A small bike is a good idea. There are trends, so sometimes riders just want to follow a trend in BMX. I think that's hopefully a little bit less common nowadays. But yeah, coach, again, all you can do is give them advice and just say, look, I think if you had a bike that's a little longer, it's going to be better for you, or a little shorter. Or
just hate them thinking that it's their fault. If you know what I mean? It's hard because sometimes they're like, I'm not good enough. I'm like, no, you're doing brilliant for what what you have with what you've got.
Yeah. Yeah,
as long as they're enjoying it, again, at the end of the day, as long as they're enjoying it.
That's it. Like, you've got to, just, I hate seeing that too, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, we had a young girl today in the session where she was like scared, nervous to ride, and it's like, because she didn't think she was good enough. And she was and it was like, yeah, but you're never going to get good if you don't keep dropping in, keep trying, and like everybody started at that point. Like, nobody just jumps on a BMX and is able to do everything, or fly around a park and do loads of tricks. Like, it's the reality of it. And the best thing is, like, with BMX, the feeling the best rider in the world gets when they learn a new trick is no different to the feeling that the kid that just dropped into the first quarter pipe. The feeling is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter how good you are. If you do something you've never done before and you're stoked about it, you're still going to be stoked. Like, the stoke is the same. So it doesn't matter how good the trick is or how good you are. Like, the feeling's the same, and that's why we ride.
Yeah, so it keeps you progressing.
Exactly.
Do you also feel BMX works as a good gateway drug to other forms of cycling?
I think it can. I think, a lot of young kids, especially young kids don't wake up and ride a letter to Santa for a road bike, They ask for a BMX. So it can be an introduction into cycling in general, and then, they might end up maybe not enjoying freestyle or BMX racing, and they want a different kind of bike. So it can be. I have a lot of friends that rode BMX most of their lives, and now they ride mountain bikes because it's a little more fun. Their friends do it, a little more fun for them, not just more fun. I'm not saying mountain bike is more fun than BMX, but for them, it's like BMX got to a point where they couldn't do it often enough, where they felt confident enough to ride the way they wanted to. So when they did, it was difficult. They got hurt. That kind of thing. Whereas mountain bike, they could just jump on a mountain bike with their mates and go ride a trail and have a load of fun. So yeah, I think in some ways it is, but in similar ways, like, scooters can be a gateway to BMX. Like,
that's what I've seen. I see that a lot of people get annoyed with the scooter riders. I'm like, look, they're riding, they're moving, they're doing something.
Yeah.
Do Do you think, I've got one question, socially, you know, the benefit of BMX freestyle, do you see it like, do you think it's, I'm trying to think of the way to put it, do you think it's like it's more than just the physical aspects of physical benefits of exercises, you get the mental benefits of kind of like pushing yourself and progressing, and when you try something like freestyle, because it is that little bit like, you know, you've got more options of what you can do, you've got to choose your own pathway, and you're around people who are also kind of pushing themselves. So do you see it as almost like a therapy?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
I do as well.
it certainly was for me.
Yeah.
And I've seen it for countless kids that I've coached.
As well, yeah.
Yeah, like I've seen kids come into BMX and their parents like, and they give you like a disclaimer before the session. Like the kid comes in and they're like, oh, they don't really like to talk, or they don't really get on well with the other kids, and like, oh, don't be surprised if they don't do anything.
Yeah.
4 or 5 sessions later, they're running into the skate park, like jabbering away, like running around with the other kids and just having a good time. So from that sense, yeah, absolutely. But then there's another aspect which I think is really important, and freestyle is kind of unique in the sense, and might be more similar to like maybe skateboarding or something, in the sense where a lot of people that ride BMX, it's not the biggest sport in the world. There's not millions of kids doing it. There's usually, in your neighborhood, there's a few. So you stick together, so you build that bond and that connection, and you learn things through BMX. Like I started filming my mates riding BMX. A few years later, I was studying videography and I was filming sport for TV and things like that. And I had friends that did the same. They wanted to make a T-shirt for our crew. 10 years later, they're a graphic designer working for like, a big company or something like. So there's all these other things in life that kids can learn through BMX, which is important. But I mean, sometimes coaching, for me, has been as simple as finding kids that you think could have fun riding together. Like, I think most of us will know riding on your own is not the best idea. Or some people really like that and they love riding by themselves, but for the most part, for most people, they're going to have more fun if they've got somebody to ride with. So there's been times when I've spent like significant effort trying to just link the right people together and be like, look, I think, why don't, like, rather than us having a private session, why don't you go ride with so-and-so at this park on this day and speak to them? I'm like, hey, would you have a session with, that person at that park, and just linking them together, and then all of a sudden, they might have a friend that they can ride with. And not every BMX session should be coached. Like, there's only so much you can take of somebody telling you to do a trick that you're scared of, or you don't want to do, or be encouraged. Like, it's important to go and learn and ride with your friends and ride with your mates.
Yeah, I think that's something that BMX Freestyle quite does, and I think ties in with what you were saying about the other job avenues. It's quite a DIY style culture, so you're creating your own thing, and it's embedded in the way BMXers talk to each other, and it's the way we all get on. So as you say, yeah, in your crew there'll be somebody that does videos, somebody that makes stickers, somebody does the graphic design, and so many people that blossoms into, as you say, another career. So that's also something to be mindful of when you're coaching, is encourage people that actually you don't have to just think about BMX as competition. It's so much of a huge ecosystem that you can join and do whatever bit you find yourself in.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the best thing about BMX.
And sorry, just to jump in quickly on something that you said, just because I was thinking about it. We focus quite a lot on the kids, but you mentioned the thing about as you get older and you start not being able to keep yourself at a level. So yeah, I mean, that's something about myself, knocked myself in my head, lost various things, and you come back, and there is times where you doubt yourself, and then you carry on, Well, I carry on. Some other people might not carry on. What advice would you give to the people that don't want to carry on?
That's tough, you know. When you get older, that's the hardest thing about carrying on riding BMX is the injuries. I think the advice is always just like ride within your limit that day. On that day, if you haven't been riding a lot, don't push. You're not going to ride the way you were riding when you were riding a lot. Like, and that doesn't matter, you know. And that's hard for a lot of people. Like, I've ridden at a certain level before, and then I've spent months not riding. And I jump back on the bike and I just want to be back at that level. And I expect myself to be back at that level. And that's when you get hurt. And yeah, it's just not, yeah, I think the advice is just like, if you haven't ridden for a while, no matter how long that is, like if you haven't ridden even in the last 2 weeks, or week even, start slow. Start, like always just start steady, start slow, build up gradually. And if you're going to do anything really challenging, just, you know, think about why. What's the reason that you want to do that harder trick? Like, is it because I used to be able to do it, or is it I feel like I can do that now, or I'm ready for that? That, you know, it's really different. But yeah, I've coached 50-year-olds that have never ridden BMX before, and the biggest thing for them was I just had to remind them, like, you don't have to do tricks. Yeah. You don't have to air this quarter pipe on your, you know, ever. It doesn't even matter. Like, this is a more fun, if you just pump around this ball, you're going to get the same workout you would in a gym, pretty much, and it's going to be far more fun. So think about it like that, and if you feel like I'm ready to try something else, then try something else. But you don't have to. So, yeah.
Cool. That's great. I think it's just on to the, well, unless there's any other questions, but I think the flow now, we've definitely gone over what we thought the allotted time would be, but that's just part and parcel. It's a great conversation, so I think it's just on to this kind of next section, so about what you guys want to get out of the next little section. So that's it.
I'm not really sure what we want to get out of it, to be honest. I think we covered so much there. Yeah. But I think for you guys, what are your goals with coaching? Like, you know, think about that. Like, really, what are your? Do you have goals? Do you want to coach? Do you want to earn a living from coaching? Do you want to? Do you want to coach kids occasionally? Like, what level?
I would like to keep bringing them on, if you know what I mean. Like, I've got at the moment most of my coaching takes place on at pump tracks and in sort of public environments. But you know, I just want to know how to keep them hooked, keep them coming in and progressing as well, not just coming in trying it. I mean, some will come in and try it and leave and not continue. Yeah. But I just want to keep them coming back to the tracks or the skate parks and just using the facilities, and then eventually them being coaches. If you know what I mean? Passing that on to. So for me, it's just trying to figure out what ways I can use pretty much very little facility, like not amazing facilities, and keep that hunger there.
I think that's tough with not having much of much of a park, but people come back for people usually. So if you can build good friend networks, if the sessions are fun and the kids are having fun and if they have other kids that they enjoy riding with, they're probably going to keep coming back.
Like building a culture rather than
building that culture. And I think there's only so much you can do with what you've got.
Burn out, that's the thing.
You can encourage them to go outside of your sessions. If you do that, they'll come back to your sessions. But if you say, have you heard, it might be like you see a kid that's getting better and this is maybe getting a little boring for them. Just drop their parent a message and be like, hey, by the way, there's a park here, and send them a link to a map and be like, I think they'd have a lot of fun here. Like maybe take them to the skate park or something.
I always like to as well share other people's things, like like Waller BMX has really good little how-to things and just like keeping interest. I like to see lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see the other, like, more people producing stuff like that, like especially the youngsters, because that's what they're really good at.
Yeah, but is there a way you can incorporate that into your sessions?
I know.
Like
Yeah,
there's a little bit of safeguarding to think about there with kids and filming. So then it's always permission, and usually
working with schools as well.
Yeah, but if you're not filming, it's generally okay. If the kids have a phone or they're doing it on their own phones, or it's the parents filming, it's like, I had a session with riders the other day where I made the entire session about making a video.
Cool.
And I was like,
That's a good idea.
you've got an hour, and here's your groups of 4, you've got an hour to film a video, and I need to see the edit tonight. Like, I want to see the edit tonight.
I like that, because I'd like to, again, incorporate ways of bringing more culture into it, so like more media, more art, more like creativeness, and
it's fun. It's what the kids want to do anyway.
Exactly. Like let them lead
they want
it
to
as
they
well.
want to film. They want to post stuff on social media. They want to.
Exactly.
So let them, rather than
Yeah.
just let them do it. But
I found at school sessions that is one of the easiest things to do is say to the kids, I want you to learn this skill, but I want you to make a TikTok video about it afterwards. And you've sorted manuals in about 30 seconds.
Go. Done. Job done. Easy.
Giving them autonomy.
Yeah. I've been in sessions where it's like, no phones, don't film anything, and there's a time and place for it.
Yeah.
And when it's kids and they're having fun, it's like, and I've used my own phone sometimes, but I've asked, parents' permission. I'm like, I'll go to them and be like, trying to teach your kid this trick. I'd really like to film it and show them what they're doing wrong. I'll delete it afterwards.
Yeah.
Or would you mind filming this?
Yeah.
And then letting us watch it back and showing them what they're doing wrong and where they're going wrong.
Yeah.
That can be helpful. Then they got the clip too.
And they get a clip. And I say that to them. I says, look, even if you think it's rubbish, please film it, because in 4 weeks' time it'll be completely different, and you'll be like, wow, you'll see your progress.
You'll look back and be like, oh my god.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also good to document those little moments, because how many times do you look back at your life and wish you'd actually taken a snapshot of that moment?
Yeah, loads. I think that covers a hell of a lot. Honestly, the most useful thing I've found is just learning about kids psychology, neurodiversity, learning a little, like as much as you can about that, because you will encounter those kids, and often those are the kids that you might find more challenging in a group session. So learning a little bit about that, learning tricks on how to do that. Don't take it too seriously. You're just riding bikes at the end of the day.
I find as well, like, asking them questions a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I get a lot out of, like, why do you think I told you to do that? And then, like, I don't tell them straight away what it is. I'm like, right, why do you think we do that?
Yeah.
And then they love explaining.
Yeah, kids love competition to an extent, but when you've got kids at different levels, I found the best thing in my group sessions with kids is to set them targets, but you make the competition. So carving, for example. If I got a group of 5 kids and you want them to get better, I might just go and ask them in the beginning of the session, right, do your highest carve. Like, okay, so you got to that level, you got to that level, you got to that level. Your goal is now whoever has the most increase over the session or over the next 5 minutes. It doesn't matter who goes the highest, whoever gets more than the first attempt, that's going to be the winner, or that, you get to choose what we ride next. You get to choose the next part of the park, or whatever it is. Like, it's always about it should always be about how they can better themselves, not how they can be better than someone else.
Yeah, it's like the voice and choice, like when within teaching, giving children like a voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that one of the most important things you can always remember, we've talked about kids falling and failing, it's also to realise that as a coach you're going to make mistakes as well, and not to beat yourself up about them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've made many. It's okay when it's mistakes with the kids learning how to ride, but when you make a mistake at a world championship and you give the rider the wrong advice and they end up not making finals, that kind of sucks. That's when it's like, take a hard look at yourself the next week and you're like, yeah, maybe that was me. but
you're human.
Yeah, but you learn from it. You learn and you move on.
Just perfect, even coaches.
Yeah.
Definitely not coaches. That's
No.
not coaches.
Yeah.
So we don't want you to make the same mistakes as us.
Anything more?
I mean, I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah.
Over the course of the past, like, I think we've been here almost an hour.
Yeah.
So no, not from my point of view, but it's just if there was anyone who wanted to jump on a bike, then there's probably opportunity to do that as well.
Yeah.
That was me trying to get my back
Was
ready.
it, could I jump on a bike today?